As we go into 2021, if it is anything like 2020, there are sure to be many products released this year. From Secret Lairs to Commander Collections to Collector Boosters to Set Boosters, regular set releases, premium set releases, there will be many products. And if there's one thing that the list and products like Secret Lair have taught us, no card is safe from a reprint other than reserve list. There's a lot to go over in this episode of Market the Gathering as we talk about the top 10 cards that I think are likely to be reprinted soon. The video starts right now.
Special thanks to our Patreon supporters who power our channel. Check out our Patreon for monthly giveaways, exclusive content, and even a starring role in our fan fight series. Link in the description below.
For a limited time only, if you join the Patreon at any level, you will receive a holographic Jake and Joel Are Magic logo sticker, limited quantity remaining. Hello and welcome to the day. Thank you for spending your time with us. I'm Jake. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. Today, I'm talking about the top 10 cards that I think are going to be reprinted this year. And if you know anything about me, there's going to be a couple honorable mentions. I don't know if these cards are going to be reprinted this year specifically or in the next couple years, but a lot of these cards are scarce and they are going to demand a reprint soon. If you like these videos where we cover MTG finance and Market the Gathering, click like, click subscribe. It's the best way to support the channel with just the click of a button. If you are a fan of the channel, check us out on Patreon. Any level gets you into the Discord. There's giveaways. There's signed cards that we're going to send out. It's a great time, great community. Also, while this is going on, I want you to know about a mono Liliana. We are hunting the foil alternate art Liliana Dreadhorde General for more of the Spark. Those streams are currently going on Tuesdays and Saturdays, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you want to get in there, see the spicy pulls, see if we get something hot, I encourage you to come hang out. It's a great time. There's a lot to go over as we talk about these 10 cards that are in desperate need of a reprint. Let's go ahead and get into it. The first card that we're going to talk about is Cabal Coffers. This card has needed a reprint for a long time. It's a huge mana accelerant in black, especially when you have a card like Urborg on the battlefield. It has 3 printings, has a price of around $60, and the demand for this card is huge. Far and away, it is the most important card that came out of Torment, and it is an uncommon. This card could be huge bait in the uncommon slot in any set that could come out this year. It could show up in a main set, or it could be used to push a Secret Lair or a collector product. If you don't think Wizards of the Coast has this card on their radar, you are living in fairy tale world, which is kind of like what Magic the Gathering is, right? I mean, whatever. Next card is Imperial Seal. With cards like Grim Tutor and Imperial Recruiter, we have seen this time and time again. We have a hugely inflated card due to scarcity. It could show up in something like a Commander Collection Black. Like in Commander Collection Green, we saw Worldly Tutor, and this isn't the only tutor we're going to talk about in this video. I do think Imperial Seal is the kind of card that could pop up in either a Commander Collection, a Collector Booster product. It could show up in a main set just to help push. But rest assured, if this card does get reprinted, it will 100% see a huge adjustment. There are only 2 printings of Imperial Seal. This one that you see here from Portal 3 Kingdoms, and then also a Judge printing. And when this card does get reprinted, the exact same thing will happen that happened with Grim Tutor and Imperial Recruiter, and so many other cards like 3 Visits and so on. So just don't get trapped if you do have this card and you're not using it. If you have it and you're using it, if it's in an EDH deck and the printing you have is dear to you and you don't care about the finance side, then whatever. But if you have superfluous copies, now is the time to move those, as you never know what can happen. There's going to be a lot of products this year, and this is one of the biggest targets that I think is on the reprint list for Wizards of the Coast. And they're just trying to figure out the right product to put it in. Next, in line with tutors, and I just talked about Commander Collection Green, I think this is a much more reasonable card. This is Enlightened Tutor, the white tutor. It has 6 printings. It has a couple of online printings, but we're not going to talk about those as those don't really matter. But in paper, this card has 6 printings, and despite the fact that it has been printed a lot, this card continues to have huge demand. Formats like Commander and cEDH value that low converted mana cost, and this card is a huge enabler of certain combos. You have to go tutor up important pieces for your combo, and this is one of those cards. It's hugely mana efficient, it's nice and versatile, it's a really good card, and so it could use another printing. Next card we have is the definition of scarcity, Personal Tutor. This card has 1 printing ever, in Portal. It's very niche and it's very specific, but I still think formats like Commander value cards like Personal Tutor because you can go get that important sorcery that you need. It's a sorcery itself and it tutors up a sorcery, so anybody that values that instant speed might want to overlook Personal Tutor. They might want to ignore this card. But I do think it's a really nice bait card for something like a Commander Collection Blue or something like that. I think there will be a tutor in each of these Commander collections that come out. That makes a lot of sense. Tutoring is a big part of EDH, and so putting a tutor from each color in each Commander collection makes the most sense, at least for me if I were designing the product myself. Will it be Mystical Tutor? Like Enlightened Tutor was printed in Eternal Masters, so is Mystical. Maybe that will happen instead of Personal Tutor. But again, this card is not reserve list. I think it could see a reprint, and I think it could pop up in any number of ways. So we've been talking about Eternal Masters. Let's talk about another card that was last time printed in Eternal Masters and has huge playability in EDH and Commander. Everybody wants this card. It's one of those cards that kind of gets in the way. It can take up a lot of time with the Sensei's Divining Top, but this is a really fun card. It's one of my pet cards, and I think it's one of those cards that it just continues to go up in price. And even though we saw it last time printed in Eternal Masters, I think it's already time to bring it back. Any kind of Commander product, for any reason. If you already have a copy and you don't need extra copies, if you have extra copies, now is the time to get rid of those. Supply and demand. If you put more of these into circulation, it's going to drop down. You can see Eternal Masters here came out in 2016, and so it's been a minute. This card got during Ixalan, it got as low as $13, but now it has crept back up to like the $45 to $50 range. Next, let's talk about this beautiful fish illustrated by Ken Mayer Jr. One of my favorite cards, a crazy card. My friend actually discovered it. It was sitting in one of my binders. I had never used it. I feel like he discovered Mystic Remora before everybody did, but this is such an amazing backbreaking EDH card. It's like Ristic Study. It's just insanely punishing for your opponents when you resolve it early. You just get so much velocity digging through your deck, drawing cards. The cumulative upkeep is negligible because of the power level of the card and all of the upkeeps that this has to go through and all of the drawing that you're going to do if you resolve this card early. I think it's great bait for any sort of product like the list and any sort of like Commander product. If we were to see some sort of Commander Legends or some sort of like, oh my God, God forbid they made this legal in Modern Horizons or something like that. But this is one of those commons that would likely be upshifted to uncommon. Or again, they wouldn't even print it into any sort of main set or any sort of big set. They would just put it on the list. I do think sometime in the future, this card is going to get a reprint. So if you have extra copies, I would get rid of them. I think it's a great reprint target, but once you meet that scarcity and you satiate all of that demand, it's going to just plummet in price. Next up, also from Ice Age, another card with one printing, just like Mystic Remora, Demonic Consultation. This card has become increasingly valuable because of EDH and combo players, people that are trying to race to the bottom of their deck and cast that Thassa's Oracle or that Jace, draw that last card, that Laboratory Maniac, and just win the game. It continues to go up in price and it has just kind of exploded in 2020, and now you can see in 2021 the card is encroaching on $20. I think it's one of those cards, it's not reserve list. I don't think it's super attractive for any kind of like modern set to be printed, new set like a Kaldheim or anything like that. I think it's one of those cards that would likely pop up on the list. And remember, list cards aren't going to be hugely affected. If they were to do like a Secret Lair race to the bottom or Secret Lair win at all costs, I could see Demonic Consultation and Laboratory Maniac being in a Secret Lair like that. I'm not trying to give them any ideas. I'm just trying to tell you how I think about these kind of products now that they've been introduced into the public. And with that, another card that has only one printing, Tainted Pact, also played in combo EDH decks that are racing to the bottom. Tainted Pact kind of plays alongside Demonic Consultation because the idea with Tainted Pact is remove the top card of your library from the game. You may put that card into your hand unless it has the same name as another card removed this way. So in EDH, that is never ever going to happen. So you're just going to draw cards. You repeat this process until you put a card into your hand or you remove 2 cards with the same name, whichever comes first. So in EDH, you can avoid all of that together. So once you have this online, you can just draw through your whole deck and win once you get to the bottom. It's one of those cards that I think would pop up on the list, or again in some sort of Secret Lair, or again in some sort of collector product. You never know. It's definitely one of those cards that I'm sure Wizards of the Coast is thinking about reprinting soon. And in the spirit of comboing out, let's talk about Final Fortune. This card has 3 printings. It could use a border update, encroaching $25, and it's just a really great, desirable combo piece for EDH. And as we have more commanders come out, like Obeka, for example, and commanders that can end the turn, effects like these take an extra turn, but then you lose. They're very mana efficient spells. So with a card like Final Fortune, you have to think when this card was conceived, it was before EDH was thought up. It was before all of these sets were thought of being played all alongside each other. So cards like these that are extremely mana efficient that end with losing the game on the next turn, people have figured out ways around it, especially with cards like Obeka that have been printed recently. So this is one of those cards that until it gets a reprint, we can expect the price to keep going up. Next, we have the Greathenge. This card is very new. It came out in 2019 in Throne of Eldraine, but since then has been a powerhouse in any EDH deck that runs green. The Greathenge is still legal in Standard, but rest assured, after Standard season rotates, this card will quickly be absorbed by EDH players. I think this is one of those cards that could show up in any sort of Masters product or any sort of like Commander product as a big reprint target, or it could even show up in a Secret Lair as well. I know it seems super soon to reprint a card like this, but I don't think everybody expected it to be as huge a hit as it turned out to be. Getting it online early is not nearly as difficult as people expected, so that huge casting cost is negligible and there's no reason to even worry about it. All right, now for some honorable mentions, we have Winds of Change. This is one of those cards that I think just needs a reprint. It's been a long time. It could use an updated border as well. Big in EDH and Wheels, the last time this card has been printed was in 1997, so it would be nice for Winds of Change to show up in any kind of product. I could see it showing up in an EDH deck, a Commander deck, any kind of deck that just values those kind of wheel strategies. It could show up in a Commander product, or again, a Secret Lair, or even the list. If you didn't realize Winds of Change has gone up in price, you should just go check through your binders. In April of 2020, this card was only a few bucks, and now it has gone up and is in the $13 to $15 range. Next honorable mention is Greater Auromancy. This is an excellent card. It has 1 printing. It's just one of these cards that's like, it's a great target for the list. It's a great target for Secret Lair. There have been multiple random cards pop up in Secret Lair products. It would be nice to have a reprint of this card. I know Wizards of the Coast likes to get rid of Shroud. They don't like Shroud, but there's no reason not to reprint this card, and I think it's time. And then finally, Polluted Bonds. Like Wound Reflection popped up in Double Masters, I think Polluted Bonds could pop up in a product like that, or it could even pop up in a modern set. I could see this being a bulk rare in like Kaldheim. And again, this is one of those cards that due to EDH has gone up and up and up. This card is very fun. It's very splashy. It's not a super potent effect, but it's a card that's very scarce and for that reason has a high price tag. As soon as we get a reprint for Polluted Bonds, I would say the price of this card is going to go down. The foil price of the card is just absolutely nuts. I used to have a foil Polluted Bonds. I don't know what happened to it. Anyway, that's my list of cards that I think are soon to be reprinted, maybe in 2021, 2022. It will be soon. Wizards of the Coast has a list of cards just like this in their back pocket, and they like to trickle them out. Not too slow, not too fast, just right. What cards do you think I missed? Leave it in the comments. I know you're going to let me know. This is mostly just cruising by lists, looking at what are the big vendors buying? What cards do I start to see over and over again? And I was like, you know what? Let's start putting this list together, because I started seeing, I was like, you know what? Demonic Consultation. This card keeps going up in price. Tainted Pact. This card, how long is it until we see Tainted Pact and Cabal Coffers and Imperial Seal? It can't be that much longer. Cabal Coffers is one of these cards, like I would say that one first. I think that is the card that we are most likely to see pop up first before the rest of these. I think it's time. What cards do you think are going to be reprinted in 2021? Or what cards do you think need to be reprinted soon? I can't wait to hear about it. Let me know in the comments. Until next time, I'm Jake with Jake and Joel Are Magic. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Market the Gathering, where we just speculate and talk about cards that need to be reprinted. If you did, click like, click subscribe. It's the best way to support the channel. If you are already a fan, check us out on Patreon. Talk to you soon. I'm tapped out.